Ancient Mesopotamia is considered to be the home of one of the first civilizations of the Holocene, meaning our current age, which goes back about 11 to 12,000 years. The global cataclysms that divide the Holocene from the previous Ice Age, or Pleistocene, were so severe and devastating that it's difficult for anthropologists to conclusively prove that agricultural civilization existed back then. There might have been farming or even pyramids in places like Europe or even Antarctica at some time, for example, but evidence would have been buried under 2 miles of glaciers and swept away as they melted. That said, the lack of prognatism of Cro-Magnon types, meaning how far the mouth sticks out from the face, and the only hominin species with a chin, in anthropological terms, is considered a biological sign of an agricultural diet in itself. And coupled with its massive cranial capacity, which even exceeds the average brain size of today's average modern man, which required a consistent diet to develop and maintain, I'm confident that empirical evidence will one day be uncovered, assuming academia either becomes more open-minded or less corrupt. Until that day, we can focus on the post-Ice Age period and where agriculture started or possibly restarted around Anatolia and the Middle East, as this demographic of people, who incidentally were direct descendants of Cro-Magnon, as is anyone alive today with a chin, but this specific demographic is special for one primary reason. They alone saved domesticated animals from the Ice Age, which were essential in large-scale agriculture and the reestablishment of civilization. By agriculture, I don't mean tossing some seeds in the ground and eating what sprouts up. I mean producing enough food to feed the entire population, freeing up the majority of people to do things like create metals, build megalithic structures, form armies, and the like. And this initially requires oxen, horses, and is why this group of people has conquered the world, spreading their language, now referred to as Indo-European, their religious philosophies, clothing itself, metals, and genetic traits from Europe to the Mediterranean and North Africa to China and even to the New World. So what did these Aryan forefathers in what is called the cradle of civilization like to eat? To learn about what their diet consisted of and what their meals actually tasted like, a team of researchers are now recreating their dishes for the first time in thousands of years. The ancient Mesopotamians left behind some of the earliest known and deciphered writing in the form of clay cuneiform tablets, including the oldest known culinary recipes, which allow us to recreate their dishes and taste them once again. The world's oldest cookbooks come from Babylon, which ruled the area of Syria, Iran, and Turkey during the 2nd millennium BC, and there are 4 clay tablets that contain 4,000-year-old recipes deposited at the Yale Babylon Collection in the Yale Peabody Museum in New Haven, Connecticut. Discovered at the start of the 20th century, it was once thought that the texts were medical in nature, but recently demonstrated that the tablets were instructions on how to prepare meals. One of the tablets is a summary collection of 25 recipes of stews and broths, which closely resemble modern stews from the Middle Eastern cuisine, which appear to be direct descendants of Babylonian versions found on the culinary tablets. Among the meals that have been prepared by the specialist was a vegetarian stew. The ancient Babylonians appear to have used beer in their cooking, which is rather like many Northern European recipes, which makes sense as these Aryans entered Europe, introducing agriculture, Indo-European or Aryan languages, religious concepts such as Thor and Odin, and cooking techniques as well. One of the most curious recipes was for a stew known as an Elamite broth, named after a region in modern Iran. And one of the ingredients of this lamb broth is blood, something which is not a common ingredient in modern cooking. Some exceptions being blood sausages, and for example, Polish duck or goose blood soup, where sometimes hen, rabbit, or pig blood is used. So let's take a look at some of these dishes that the researchers came up with, shall we?
We might wonder what plants grew in the gardens of ancient Mesopotamia and what sort of cuisine the Babylonians enjoyed, since the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, built by King Nebuchadnezzar, were one of the wonders of the world. So I decided to show the chefs here at the British Museum a tablet recording the plants in an earlier royal garden to see if it might inspire them. As you can see how small it is. It's covered in writing on both sides, and it is a list of plants. Some of them are straightforward, names that you will immediately recognise, like garlic and onion and leek, and what have we got? Turnip and so forth, cucumber. So these were plants that will be used for obvious cooking purposes. And there are some special Babylonian ones, which I bet you've never heard of before. The best example is this. Down here, there's a plant called the slave girl buttock plant. Now, I strongly recommend you see if you can't get some of that as an ingredient and try it in some of your dishes.
What sort of dishes they were actually cooking at the time?
Well, we know what they liked to eat because we've got some recipes. We've got some clay tablets, a bit bigger than the one on exhibition here, which tell us what they cooked, how they did it, what they added. And these recipes are all for a series of what you might call soupy stews, that kind of thing as a central dish. And they probably had a sort of flatbread that went with it, and lots of beer as well, which is an important part of it. So, armed with a cookbook of Mesopotamian recipes, our chef Eric decided to make venison broth, omitting the dodder, of course.
I make a venison broth. We add carrots, onion, garlic, thyme, coriander, leek. The browned venison we have here, we add to the vegetables. And also the juice. And we simmer this for about 2 hours to get all the flavor in the broth. So the herbs, the vegetables, and the venison make the whole broth nice and flavorful. This will be simmered for 2 hours. And then in the end, it looks like this. And we can have a try.
Inspired by the venison broth, Eric went on to produce a veritable feast of Babylonian dishes.
We have the hummus, bresaola, tabbouleh, stuffed vine leaves, the Babylon salad. It's a mixed leaf salad, marinated with balsamic olive oil and rose water. And we have the spiced lentils, fried spinach. On top there's the grey mullet.
All sorts of fish were eaten in ancient Mesopotamia, in ancient Iraq. Lists of different names of fish. Sometimes we can even recognise the ancient ones, and sometimes we don't know what they are. But it's clear that it was a really important part of daily intake in ancient Mesopotamia all the way through. And this sort of dish, possibly not prepared with such subtlety and such beauty, would be something that any Babylonian would relish for lunch.
My name is Robert Sepehr. I'm an anthropologist. Please consider reading my published work on Amazon.com. Thank you to those of you who support me on Patreon.com. There should be a link below. Please share these videos as I rely on word of mouth, and hit the like button. Please don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell for updates. Leave me your thoughts in the comments section. Please have a wonderful weekend, and I hope to see you again soon. Bon appetit.